With the killing of George Floyd and the worldwide protest that followed, a growing group of Americans now believe that police departments should be defunded and that money reinvested into the community. Joining us this morning is PhD candidate at Yale University and civil rights activist Philip McHarris to talk about what defunding law enforcement could potentially look like. Philip, thanks so much for joining us. So tell us, walk us through it. A lot of people hear defunding and think that means dismantling.
So defunding right now, the catchphrase doesn't necessarily reflect the broader campaign, which is an invest, divest model. And so really what it means is divesting from policing. Police spending has been sort of exponentially increased in recent decades. And, there isn't much to show for it except the increased capacity of police to engage in violence and routine harassment. And this is at a time where over the recent decades, violence and harm within the United States has been on a decline. And, studies show that the increases in police spending is not a result of increases in crime. It's actually a result of growing Black and immigrant populations. And so, we have this massive policing apparatus in the country today that is not making communities safer. And so what communities now are shifting towards is divesting from the bloated police budgets that exist today and reinvesting those funds into community resources like schools, employment, healthcare, housing, and also developing alternative emergency response models that do not center around policing and prisons. And so, in the case of Minneapolis, they are disbanding the department as the city council announced, but defunding is the mechanism that can be used in order to reimagine public safety. And the initial step that they're taking is defunding. And so defunding is a strategy and it can be connected to a broader vision. But the vision as it is being conceived of on the ground with organized with activists is a complete reimagination of public safety.
All right. So you're saying defunding does not mean dismantling, but defunding in a sense of putting back into the community. Is that the solution to solving police brutality and racial inequality in communities?
Right. So, yeah, what I'm saying is defunding is a strategy that can be used in a broader project of dismantling and complete re-envisioning. And, but it's also being used in different ways. But what I'm trying to communicate is that it's not necessarily used in that way, but in a place like, LA, where the mayor announced that he will be defunding, I believe it was $150 million. That kind of defunding in the context of an over $1 billion budget isn't the same way defunding is being conceived of by organizers and activists in places like Minneapolis and other places. And so the question of, will it stop police brutality? The truth is that the issues of policing are baked into its design. And so, policing emerges initially from slave patrols. That's where the first publicly funded policing apparatus begins. And then throughout the country, we see over time, policing is really a tool of racial and class order maintenance. And that's not sort of just, rhetoric. It's actually, if you look at the history of policing. And so right now what we have is a system where it's equivalent to a house that is built on a faulty foundation. And it doesn't matter how much you renovate the rooms or you make the lawn look nice or you change the siding. It's violence and sort of these patterns of harassment and violence and murder are so seeped in to the structural inequalities that exist within this country that really the only way to stop it is to avert the context of police violence occurring in those of police encounters and shifting away to alternative emergency response models.
All right, Philip, that's a great analogy. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time, and good luck to you as a Yale PhD candidate. Thanks again.